Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Wednesday, the 11th of Muharram 1444, corresponding with the English date 10th of August 2022. This Majlis took place after the Ishraaq Salat at the residence of Hazrat Wala Damat Barakatuhum. Hazrat Wala starts off by quoting the ayat of the Quran Majid, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. And another ayat as well, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ. Thereafter, Hazrat Wala goes on to say, many may not know, but the kitab that I have in front of me is the tasnif and compilation of Ibn Ataullah Iskandari. Hazrat Shaykh al-Hadith used to also read out this kitab in his majlis. This is a very great personality. Now when Maulana Tanvi went to Makkah Mukarramah to sit in the company of Hazrat Haji Sahib, in those days, this was actually part of the whole system, the nisab, that after completion and graduation, after the alimiyat, a person would go and sit for 6 long months or a year in the company of a buzrug. I mean, today doctors also do that after completion, they stand and in the company of another doctor for 6 months. But today, the system is not, please forgive me, not found amongst us. Nevertheless, when Hazrat Tanvi went on this occasion, Maulana Gangohi also went, Maulana Qasim Saab also went. On one occasion, Maulana Yaqub Saab came to Hazrat Haji Saab, and the rest were then going off to Madina Munawwara. He was there to stay. So Hazrat Haji Saab said to Hazrat Gangohi that, listen, say to him that he will not speak. Allahu Akbar. Now the Shaykh here, in the terminology, is also not even an alim that would have completed the nisab, Hazrat Haji Saab. But what to do and what to say, that person who has his earthen pot connected to the ocean, can anybody even speak in front of that personality? Nevertheless, on their return, Hazrat Haji Sahib then remarked, what to do? Before I could even speak, people would come here, he would speak. He would speak. Now, it is that personality who was at the helm of affairs at Darul Uloom Deoband, seeing to the exams of the students and granting them admission, and here on this side he had failed. But what was that? Was that abhorrent character? No, that was Islah. That was Islah. And Allah Ta'ala teaches us this theme and lesson before He even starts the entire Quran Majid. Alif Lam Mim. Allahu a'lamu bimaradihi. Nobody knows its meaning. Here already we taught about nasty, the expression of helplessness, annihilation of oneself. That I do not know this year. Allah Ta'ala knows what's the meaning. So also there's an occasion for speaking. On that occasion to speak, that is a sign of perfection and kamal. And the occasion not to speak, on that occasion when we don't speak, that will also be a sign of perfection. And if we do, then that will be nothing but bakwas and useless on our side, futility from our side. So Allah Ta'ala bless us with this ulum. When we have this type of ulum, then the path will open for us. أول قدم للمريد أن يكون على الصدق. The first step for the searcher of the truth in this path is that of sincerity. When a person has sidq and this honesty and truthfulness within him, he would progress. Otherwise, leave alone anything, he may even go backwards. Because Allah Ta'ala is the ultimate power. Allah fears none. What do you want to throw in the direction of Allah? What about this bomb and that bomb? Maybe that atom bomb will come from Allah's side on you. Allah is the sole controller and the most mighty power over all. So one is suluk, the other one is wuquf, and the other one is ruju'. So suluk is we walk this path to Allah. Wuquf we may be stagnant. And ruju is even worse than all of that there, that we may be returning and even go back. So Alif Lam Mim, such a great lesson is taught in that. This sidq and this himmat is taught in that. In fact, I was thinking this morning, what would I speak about? But anyway, when I opened up here, what can I say? All this is for me. There was a great alim of Deoband, and he came and he said to Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab that, Hazrat, give us some batini ni'mats and wealth. But Hazrat Shah Wasiullah Sahab then told me to relate some couplets to him, meaning that you would not just get something just like that. Allahu Akbar. So Hazrat Tanvi went for 6 months to achieve this same great wealth. Umar radiyallahu ta'ala on one occasion, a person came to him and then he spoke for a while. He was very eloquent in speech and he gave his discourse there. He spoke a bit. Nevertheless, after he finished, Umar radiyallahu ta'ala then detained him and said to him, go and sit in that room. Nevertheless, he went without any questions. He went without any questions. Umar radiyallahu ta'ala did not say anything to him, neither did that person ask anything. So he goes, and every day Umar radiyallahu ta'ala summons him, he comes. And after 6 months or a year, he said, I had a fear over you. أَخْوَفُ مَا أَخَافُ عَلَى أُمَّتِي مُنَافِقٌ عَلِيمُ اللِّسَانِ. The thing that I fear the most upon my ummah is that munafiq who is well versed. So I had that fear over you, but now I'm confident and you can leave. Now what was this? Was this not tariq and this path that we are treading? Wasn't this the very same thing or hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said? Doesn't this equal to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because it was the sunnah of the Khulafa Rashidin? Nevertheless, I have confidence, now you may leave. Allahu Akbar. So Hazrat Tanvi went there, and Hazrat Haji Imdadullah then said to him, Ashraf Ali, translate this kitab, it will be of great benefit to the people. He understood his capacity and capability, and then he tasked him with this particular duty. So here we have, and we're reading from the Talim here, it is said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up the heart of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam with the nur of contentment and his happiness. And he blessed him with the spirit of istislam and handing himself over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He protected his heart from turning its gaze to the makhluk. Therefore, the fire then became cool and a means of peace for him. And this here can only happen to that person who has handed over himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a person does this here, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then gives him salam. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him salam. So therefore, understand, O believer, the person who hands himself over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the point of exams and at the point of an interview and his test, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then changes the thorns into beautiful flowers, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes fear and exchanges it with peace. Therefore, if shaitan throws you in the catapult of imtihan, and the whole world presents themselves to you saying, Alaka haja, do you have any need? So at that time, say, Amma ilayki fala wa amma ilallahi fabala. To you, to the makhluk, no way, not at all. I have no need for you. Rather, from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Most definitely. And if they say to you, then ask Allah, then say at that time, Hasbi min su'ali ilmuhu bihali. That is sufficient, suffices, my condition, his knowledge about my condition actually suffices me. I don't even need to ask him. فَإِنَّ اللَّهُ يُعِيدُ عَلَيْكَ نَارَ الدُّنْيَا بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا. It is then that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would remove that fire of this world, exchange it with coolness and peace, and will bless you with blessings and with honor. Because the Anbiya alayhimus salatu was salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up for them the paths of hidayat, and behind them treaded the same path. Who was it? The mu'minun. And made it necessary upon them the following of this path, those who had conviction. Just like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Myself and those who follow me as well. Allah Ta'ala says in the shan of his Nabi Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam, فَاسْتَجَبَنَا لَهُ وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ. We answered for him and we granted him salvation from grief. And similarly we would grant salvation to the believers. وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. We will save the believers, those who follow in their footsteps. In the footsteps of Sayyidina Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam, the Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam, those who are looking and searching for the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who have the expression of helplessness in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, annihilation of oneself in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So such a heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. He opened his heart with the nur of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that my Allah must be happy. Now here also we understand that Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam read, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minadh dhalimin. So sometimes today we are also reading it, but we're thinking to ourselves that we are muttaqeen. We don't think for a moment that we are zalimeen. You know, you must have heard about the incident of Zunnun Misri. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb used to quote this incident abundantly. That at the time of drought, at that time when all the people of Egypt came out to out of the area and they came to make dua. They came to the boundaries of the town and they started pleading and begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of them in tawbah and istighfar. At that time the rain just wouldn't come. Zunnun Misri at that time said, it is a great possibility that the rain is not coming because of the presence of a sinner. And I think that I need to leave this gathering. It is because of me that the rain is withheld and it is not coming. He stands up, he wraps his things up and he leaves Egypt. At that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the rains of pouring down in torrents on the people there. Somebody actually asked Hazrat Tanvi that truly, really, was he a sinner? Hazrat Tanvi did not answer at that question, but I am saying this here that it was because of his acknowledgement of and confession of sins that the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came down there. That this sunnat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is most dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because on those plains there, every person was in tawbah and istighfar, but maybe not even one was confessing his sins. Iqrar. The sunnat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ana al-mu'tarifu bidhanbi. I am the one who acknowledges and confesses his sins. وَأَبْتَهِلُ إِلَيْكَ إِبْتِهَالَ الْمُذْنِبِ الذَّلِيلِ. I call out to you the calling of a disgraced sinner. Okay, so in this year, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minadh dhalimin, and what we have said earlier, there is great lesson for the people of insight, so that they must come out from their own plans and what they have put together. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will then take over their matter and see to their needs. Do you not see that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, when he did not make his own arrangements, he wasn't concerned with it, he didn't do anything, but rather he handed it over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he handed himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he put his full trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when he done this year, what was the end result of this istislam, handing himself over to Allah? It was wujud as-salama wal ikram. Allah blessed him with peace and honor, and Allah Ta'ala blessed him that he would be remembered even after the passage of time. That's why we find today also, when we read durood and salawat, we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallayta ala Ibrahim. Do you not see on the occasion of Udhiyah in Qurbani, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam emphasizes and puts in the hearts and the minds of the Sahaba that this is the sunnat of your father Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So Allah Ta'ala commands us that we do not come out from His creed. And Allah Ta'ala speaks about this in the Quran. Millata abikum Ibrahim huwa sammakumul muslimina min qabl. So it is a right upon every person who is a Ibrahimi that he comes out from his own tadbir and his plans and frees himself completely, and then he hands himself over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is the millat of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. And who will come away from this millat, this creed, this style, this sifat of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam? None other than a person who is a foolish person. وَمَنْ يَرْغَبُ عَنْ مِلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِلَّا مَنْ سَفِهَ نَفْسَهُ وَمِلَّتُهُ. And the millat of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, it is necessary to hand oneself over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so this is the tawheed. La ma'buda illallah. There is none worthy of worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When a person says this, he comes out of the major type of shirk. And sometimes he may be believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but his objective is to show someone else or to please someone else. So then he will be involved then in shirk khafi. So we say la maqsuda illallah, that there is no goal and objective, and I wish not to please anyone else other than Allah. So when we come out of both, then there would be kamal and perfection. You know, Hazrat Maulana Abara'ul Haq, amongst many other things, he would emphasize this year that at a time of difficulty, so I was saying there, at the time of difficulty, Hazrat Maulana Abara'ul Haq Sahib used to say that first turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, after that, do whatever you have to do. Make your arrangements, medicine, the doctor, this or that. But first, turn your attention and your heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask ruju first to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wahidullah. Proclaim the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib used to teach us many du'as. We are in difficulty. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-yusr wal-mu'afat fi dunya wal-akhirah. Oh Allah, bless us with ease and forgiveness in this dunya and in the akhirah. You know, when Maulana Abdul Halim heard these du'as from us, he said, then I should also make these type of du'as. Another dua, Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afiyah wa dawam al-afiyah wa shukra ala al-afiyah. In fact, Sayyidina Rifa'i used to translate afiyah in this manner, that to breathe easily, without any difficulty, meaning the best of health, and to get your rizq and your rozi and sustenance without any difficulty. You know, sometimes a person has to do this and so much, for him to get that amount, and another person gets that same amount without much difficulty. So he says, your sustenance without difficulty. And the last part, which is that a person does his deeds with ikhlas. Allahu Akbar. So make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the other stages also easy for us. Now let us make dua. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-yusr wal-mu'afat fi dunya wal-akhirah. Allahumma inna nas'aluka as-sihhata wal-'iffata wal-amanata wa husna al-khulq wal-ridha bil-qadr. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-'afiyya wa dawam al-'afiyya wa-shukra 'ala al-'afiyya wal-ghina 'anil nas. And all our near and dear ones, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever it is, Allah ta'ala give us all hidayat. Muslims are also restless at this point in time. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.